Hi everyone, and welcome back to another Let's Build profile, this time centered on the archetype that crosses over between flip monsters and ritual summoning, the Prediction Princess. Before I go on, mandatory disclaimer up front, this is supposed to inspire you to build the deck better yourself. I'm not trying to build the best deck in this series, but this build in particular is meant to showcase the new support from Darkwing Blast and some of the other standalone cards that support the theme. So anyways, I queued up a couple of cool replays at the end, so if you aren't interested in hearing me describe this strategy in detail, feel free to use the chapters video to jump straight to that part of the video. So let's begin with the archetype itself. Since its introduction to the physical game, the Prediction Princess archetype is centered around Prediction Princess Tarot Tray, a level 9 light fairy ritual monster that special summons any flip monster from the graveyard during your end phase. And she also carries a quick effect to either flip a face-up monster face-down or a face-down monster face-up. Paired with Prediction Ritual, her paired ritual spell, Tarot Tray has been a source of power that can be added to many different flip strategies throughout the years. Although it's pretty safe to argue that none of them have been all too game-defining. I mean, come on now. Which flip strategy has been game-defining outside of Shadow, who did not really use their flip effects that much? Unfortunately. Anyways, back to the topic at hand. Tarot Tray herself enables some really cool stuff, especially when ritual summoned using a level 9 flip monster, as she brings that level 9 flip monster right back during the end phase. There's also one more thing I want to note before moving on, and that's about her paired ritual spell, Prediction Ritual. This also has a graveyard effect to banish itself from your graveyard during the main phase, except the turn it was sent to the graveyard, to tutor a different Prediction Princess monster. So you can really use this ritual spell to cycle and grab something else in your deck, another Tarot Tray or another flip effect Prediction Princess monster, and that really helps your longevity as the game moves on. There'll be another ritual spell that I introduce a little bit later that also has a similar graveyard effect, so stay tuned for that. But now that we're acquainted with Tarot Tray, I want to talk about the fun new cards that this team got from Darkwing Blast, since they're each really cool in their own right. And front and center is the game's first ritual flip monster, Nether Prediction Princess Tarot Tray. Whenever she is flipped, you get to special summon any flip monster from your deck in face-down defense position. That's right, any flip monster. Sure, the Prediction Princess already had a way to tutor any flip monster, but it had to be level 3 or higher before. Now she can just grab anything when flipped. Secondly, she just has a stronger version of Tarot Tray's quick effect, in that she can flip all face-down monsters face-up, or all face-up monsters face-down, or any number of those, because of course she can. Anywho, this is really huge, because Prediction Princess decks before had to rely on drawing or milling your flip monsters first before being able to access them with Tarot Tray. But now with Tarot Tray, you don't have to do that at all. You can just pull your flip monsters directly from the deck and have that at your disposal. One more thing to note is this ritual flip monster has a specific carve-out to be summoned by the effect of Tarot Tray itself. So she can start coming back from the graveyard as well during the end phase, even if your opponent does deal with this new monster. Let's move along to the next new card from Darkwing Blast, and that's their very own level 9 ritual flip monster, ritual support fairy Prediction Princess flip monster, and that's Prediction Princess Bibliomuse. When flipped, Bibliomuse adds a Prediction Princess monster and one ritual spell from the deck to your hand. So in other words, she grabs all the pieces you need to make a ritual summon of either Tarot Tray or Tarot Tray. Additionally, whenever Bibliomuse is tributed and sent to the graveyard, she special summons herself back from the graveyard in face-down defense position, perfect to be flipped up by a card effect. So if you have Bibliomuse and Tarot Tray, and Prediction Ritual, you can use Prediction Ritual, tribute Bibliomuse, summon Tarot Tray, immediately use Tarot Tray's effect to flip Bibliomuse back face up after it summons itself back from the graveyard, tutor your Tarot Tray and another ritual spell, and you're already set to go to summon Tarot Tray as well. Not too bad. Sure, that's a 3-card combo, which can be cut down to 2 cards with pre-preparation of rights, which I'll talk about later. But this is just the start of advantage growing, flip effects continuing to cycle, You got your powerful ritual monsters at your disposal as well. Long story short, you have a lot of tools here and a lot of fun toys to play with. Bibliomuse also has the last effect, which protects your ritual monsters from being destroyed by card effects or targeted by card effects. So just extra protection to throw into the fire. The last new card from Darkwing Blast is a new ritual spell specifically for Nether Prediction Princess Tarot Traith, but it can be used for any Prediction Princess monster. And this ritual summons any Prediction Princess from either your hand or your graveyard in face-up attack position or face-down defense. So you can use Nether Prediction Ritual to summon Tarot Traith face down, all while getting ready to flip her right face up with Tarot Tray or some other flip effect, and tutoring a flip monster from your deck. Additionally, this also has that graveyard effect I previewed earlier, in that during the standby phase, if you have a Prediction Princess ritual monster, you can banish it from the graveyard to special summon any Prediction Princess monster from your deck, as long as it's not a ritual, in face down defense position. So basically setting yourself up with another flip monster. Sure, you can use this to grab another copy of Bibliomuse, or even the next monster, which I'm going to cover, which is Prediction Princess Koinorma. But ultimately, it just gives a little bit more speed, a little bit more power to the deck. Gives you another monster on board, which ultimately gets you that much closer to victory. So now that we covered the new cards, let's talk about the flip monsters we're going to pair all these Prediction Princesses with. And that first up on our list is Koinorma. Whenever she is flipped face up, you can special summon a level 3 or higher flip monster from the hand or deck in face down defense position. However, she does come with a restriction that you can only activate Prediction Princess monster effects for the rest of the turn. While this is a little bit frustrating in terms of a restriction, odds are you're not going to need to rely on Koinorma anymore to pull flip monsters from your deck, now that Tarot Traith exists. But she's still a great Prediction Princess monster to include in your deck, as worst comes to worst, you set her, summon her with Tarot Tray effect, and she's a level 3, which pairs well with the level 6 monster I'll cover later. The next generic flip is the first of our level 9 flip monsters. You remember that combo I talked about with Prediction Ritual and Tarot Tray, and that's Pot of the Forbidden. Pot of the Forbidden is a level 9 flip monster that carries the effect of 3 spell cards on the Forbidden Limited list. I wish I could still say that they're all still forbidden, all 4 of their effects, but Raigeki managed to escape the FL list quite a few formats ago, so it's left with only 3 out of 4 forbidden effects. This is pretty much why this card is so powerful, in that you have such a wide array of effects to pick from. If your opponent is a back row heavy deck, you can spin them all back to the hand. If you want to draw cards, you can draw 2 cards. You can look at your opponent's hand and shuffle 1 back from their hand into the deck. It is flexible, and that flexibility is what this flip monster brings to my build and why it's really important. The other level 9 flip monster, since I might as well cover that really quickly, is Deus Ex Crawler. It's a level 9 flip monster that, after being flipped face up and while it's still in the monster zone, it negates all monster effects activated on your opponent's board. So it's effectively a floodgate for all monster effects your opponent would activate. Plus, whenever it's destroyed, it tutors a level 9 monster with a different original type and attribute. So that basically means you can grab either of your level 9 Prediction Princess rituals, as both of them are fairies. The one is light, the one is dark, and neither of that clashes with the Earth Insect. What you might be pulling the most with the effective Tarot Traith in terms of a flip monster is a little old level 3 monster called Guard Dog. This flip monster prevents your opponent from special summoning for the rest of the turn after it's flipped face up. As you'll notice between this effect, Deus Ex Crawler, and the final flip monster I'm running, this deck is all about creating floodgates out of flip effects that probably were overlooked back in the day when they were released because they were flip effects, but the consistency granted by Tarot Traith, Tarot Tray, allows you to run these as an effective floodgate to prevent your opponent from taking actions and prevent your opponent from really executing their game strategy. Guard Dog is just the second piece of that. Deus Ex Crawler is the first. And if you have a deck that doesn't care about monsters that much, so no monster effects, no special summons, look at Sonic Jammer. This is a level 2 flip monster that prevents the activation of any spell cards until the end phase of the next turn. So not only does this protect against any normal spells they would activate during their turn, or field spells or continuous spells, it also protects from quick plays during the following turn, which can be devastating against the new runic theme that just recently came out. In short, I just love these floodgates that are one-sided, that are searchable from the deck, and even if your opponent gets one of them off the board, you can keep bringing them back with Tarot Tray for turns and turns to come. So moving along from our flips and our Prediction Princess monsters, let's talk about the rest of this build and how I've tried to make it as consistent as possible. And I'm going to start with Diviner of the Herald, a staple ritual support monster. As you should know, Diviner gets to send a fairy from either the deck or extra deck when summoned. Sending to the graveyard when summoned, increasing its level by the level of the sent monster. In the case of Diviner, you're probably going to be sending Herald of the Arclight from your extra deck, raising her up to level 6, and whenever Herald of the Arclight is sent to the graveyard, it tutors either a ritual monster or a ritual spell. Again, use this to grab Tarot Tray, Tarot Traith, Prediction Ritual, Nether Prediction Ritual. It's versatile, that's the whole point. And Diviner of the Heralds also comes with a second effect, that whenever it's tributed, you get to special summon a level 2 or lower fairy monster from your hand or deck. Again, ritual summons tribute monsters, so if you manage to tribute Diviner, let's say for Prediction Ritual with a Koinorma, that's 6 plus 3, that's 9 for either of your monsters. And then Heralds will get to summon this lovely little fairy, Cyber Egg Angel. Cyber Egg Angel is a level 2 fairy, entirely designed to just be pulled out of the deck with Diviner of the Herald. And whenever it's summoned, you get to add a Machine Angel spell or a Ritual Sanctuary. In particular, we're only running Ritual Sanctuary here, which is a field spell that allows you to recycle your light fairy monsters from the graveyard by shuffling spells from your graveyard back into the deck. It also adds generic consistency to ritual themes, as you can discard any spell to tutor a light ritual monster, that's Tarot Tray, or a ritual spell, either your Prediction Rituals from the deck. The cool combo here is if you summon Diviner, send that Herald of the Arclight, tribute it away for a ritual summon out Cyber Egg Angel, then ultimately have 2 spells in your graveyard, you can use Ritual Sanctuary to shuffle those 2 spells back, summon back your Diviner of the Heralds from the graveyard, and then that's 2 plus 2 to make a Synchro Summon a level 4, which can get you another copy of Herald of the Arclight, except this time as a monster, with an effect that offers yet another floodgate to your board. Because while Herald of the Arclight is face up, any monster that will be sent from the hand or main deck to the graveyard is banished instead. This can be extremely powerful against Tearlaments, or the Exchange of the Spirit of Siju fairies. You have a lot of options to stop just by that floodgate, and then even it has a second effect of an Omni Negate, so it can negate an activation of a spell or trap card or monster effect, and that just adds an additional wrinkle that your opponent is going to have to fight through if they're going to break your board, especially if you throw in one of these other powerful floodgates. If you don't like this Cyber Egg Angel and Ritual Sanctuary combo with Diviner of the Heralds, and you don't want to send that Herald of the Arclight because you already have your Ritual and Ritual spell, you can actually send Trias Hierarchia instead, who is a level 9 light fairy that can tribute up to 3 fairy monsters while it's in the hand or graveyard to special summon it, and then apply the following effects if you tributed more than 1 fairy. Again, this can be used to trigger that Diviner of the Heralds, so if you don't have a ritual combo and you won't be able to tribute Diviner of the Heralds otherwise, you can just send Trias instead, and Trias will still get you to that Cyber Egg Angel. But more importantly, it can tribute fairies. And the one problem with Prediction Princess is that they tend to clog their main zones a lot. Because if you have a Tarot Tray, a Tarot Traith, and you use a Bibliomuse to summon one of them, that's already 3 of your 5 zones. Add in the monster that Tarot Traith summons for the deck, and the monster that Tarot Tray summons from the graveyard, and that's already all 5 slots. If you need to summon another monster during your opponent's turn, you're going to need a way to clear out your monster card zones beyond just letting your opponent combo and start destroying your board. and that is another niche that Trias can really step in and help. So moving beyond this fairy engine, let's talk about the cards that help make this deck a lot more consistent. First up, we have 3 copies of Product Prosperity. I know this card is expensive, I know this card is a staple, but it really is a no-brainer in ritual themes, as this deck doesn't draw much outside of Pot of the Forbidden's effect, but it lets you look at the top 6 cards of your deck and determine which one helps me complete a combo. Do I need a ritual spell? Do I need a ritual monster? Do I need a way to search both a ritual spell and monster at once? That's the flexibility that Prosperity brings, and really is why it should be a mainstay in most ritual deck builds. As I've talked about a couple times, pre-preparation of rites, very straightforward. The one downside to this card in this theme is that it can only search the original Prediction Ritual, as Nether Prediction Ritual does not list the name of either Prediction Princess Ritual monster, unfortunately. But even with that, it's still really good at pulling Prediction Ritual and then grabbing a Tarot Tray. It's just an extra way to get 2 more monsters to start building towards your combos. The last Continue card is one of my favorite tech cards for the archetype, and it's really old. That's Book of Taiyu. Taiyu can be used to flip a face-down monster on the field into face-up attack position. Really simple effect. Why this matters so much to Prediction Princess is that while you have Tarot Tray and you have Tarot Traith to be able to flip stuff face-up, you don't necessarily have a good way to flip that Tarot Traith face-up if you don't already have a Tarot Tray on the board. While you can replace this with a more modern option such as Sol and Luna, which flips a monster on both players' boards into a different battle position, Book of Taiyu does not require the opponent to have anything to activate, and that's the only reason why it gets a slot in my deck over Sol and Luna. Finally, I'm running 2 copies of Cyber Angel Ben 10. It's a staple light fairy ritual. Whenever it's tributed, you get to tutor another light fairy, so you can tutor a Cyber Angel, Diviner the Herald, Tarot Tray, Trias. It's just good all around, and so I'd highly recommend including these in a lot of ritual builds. But if you don't like this is a little bit of an area where you can cut them. Then closing on my main deck with some staples, I have Called by the Grave and 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence, because, let's be real, you don't want your combo getting disrupted by your opponent, so let's run as many ways to stop them from disrupting you as possible. While you could run a full Cross-Out Designator engine, or expand this with a lot more hand traps, I'm leaving that to you to do if you choose, because if you build this deck back better yourself, you can definitely expand upon some more of those staple options. This is just what I wanted to include. So now that we've finished the main deck, let's talk about the extra. Start really quick with Herald of the Arclight. Again, I've talked about its main role being sent from the extra deck to the graveyard to tutor a ritual or a ritual spell. But Elder Entity Natis feels pretty much the same role, just whenever it's sent to the graveyard, you get to target a card in the field and destroy it. So if this is your consistency tutoring option, this is your destructive option if needed to blow up an opponent's threat. Regardless of what you send, the next rank 9 monster actually enables both of their effects to be used multiple times in a turn. And that's Mirologic Aggregator. This rank 9 Xyz monster sends any monster from the extra deck to the graveyard when initially Xyz summoned. Then it can detach its Xyz materials to target that many cards in your graveyard, that many monsters in the graveyard to attach back as new material. So if you Xyz summon this using 2 level 9 monsters, you can detach both those level 9s to attach 2 copies of Herald of Arclight back to Aggregator. So you can trigger the same copy of Arclight multiple times by continuously equipping it from your graveyard. While you can only use that second effect of Aggregator once per turn, or technically all effects of Aggregator once per turn, as you start using it over and over again, you are going to get closer and closer, more advantage, and ultimately it will lead to you compiling enough to just be able to steamroll the opponent. But even before then, it's a solid option to disrupt the opponent more, reuse your effects, just all around a great card. The other rank 9s I'm using in here are 9 Lives Cat. This one primarily protects your level 9 monsters that will special summon from the graveyard, or any monster, any of your flip monsters really, because you're going to be summoning from the graveyard a lot with Tarot Tray. You could be summoning your Nether Tarot Traith from the graveyard as well with Tarot Tray, and Bibliomuse summons itself from the graveyard. You got a lot of stuff you want to protect, so that's what 9 Live Cats does well, as well as summoning other level 9 monsters from your graveyard. The last rank 9 is Jormungandr, Generator Boss of Eternity, who can detach a material to have each player draw a card, and then each player that drew attaches one card from their hand or field to the card, and it gains attack power based on the number of Xyz materials it has. So over time, this will grow into more and more of a threat, but it also makes the opponent make some decisions about what card they don't need anymore and what card they want to give and sacrifice to the Generator Boss of Eternity. Since this is a deck that runs a number of Xyz monsters that all tend to stick around a little bit, I am running a copy Divine Arsenal AA Zeus Sky Thunder, and whenever I run Zeus, I like to pair it with a number 47 Nightmare Shark, since Shark can detach material, attack directly, and then upgrade into Zeus during main phase 2 to destroy the board, well, to send the board if needed. So it's just a personal combo I like. You can really only summon him by using a Coin Orma and another flip monster, but it's still worth it in my book for that small, fun interaction. The rest of the extra deck is devoted to fairly staple links for Prediction Princess. I'll just scan through them really quickly in case you don't recognize any of the small pictures, but most of them are nightmares. And then we got the excess Code Talker and Subterra Behemoth Fiendus. Alright, so that finishes this build for today. If you haven't figured out yet from the description of all these flip monsters and what I've been trying to sprinkle in from the ritual side of the deck, this is very much a disruptive control strategy, and specifically one that tailors its options to the opponent. If you're facing someone who relies on monsters, GSX Crawler, or bring out Guard Dog. If you're facing someone who relies on spells, Sonic Jammer. If you don't know what is the best to pull, probably it's best to go with Crawler, but you can also pull with Pot of the Forbidden to remain flexible, to adapt to whatever your opponent does end up playing. Either way, it's a neat flavor of a ritual deck, plus it uses the undervalued and underappreciated flip mechanic to great effect. Although I will admit that my build is a little bit heavy on the Prediction Princess stuff, and that's just because I wanted to show off the theme. So please make sure you tailor it to what you're looking for whenever you build this deck better yourself. Speaking of options and building the deck better, let me talk about some other techs. I know I've talked about Sol and Luna before, and since today's build focuses on flip monsters, I'm actually going to devote a big portion of this to additional flip tech options. The first is Subterra Behemoth Umasterisk. This is probably one of the best Subterra Behemoths to splash into a Prediction Princess build, primarily because it offers targeted monster disruption by banishing a targeted monster on the opponent's board. It doesn't destroy, it doesn't send to the graveyard, so it doesn't trigger a lot of effects. But since it's a Subterra Behemoth, it can also special summon itself from the hand whenever your last face-up monster is flipped face down. And all around, all those effects sort of pair together to be a really great combination. Next up, we have Shadow Beast. This card, when flipped, you draw 2 cards and discard a card. Again, pretty straightforward, but this is your draw power option. If you want to have a flip monster that gives you more draw power and you don't like just relying on Pot of the Forbidden, that's what Shadow Beast does for you. The other flip monster that does this similar role is actually Morphing Jar, as Prediction Princess tends to combo through a lot of its hand when bringing out its opening board, and so plopping out a Morphing Jar and drawing 5 at the end of your combo can be a really sick way to lay the burn on the opponent. Moving on to alternative Floodgate, and I use that loosely in quotes here, flip effect monsters. I want to chat next about Fairy Tale Sleeper. as she's a little bit unique here in these options, and that her flip effect really isn't what we're going for. In fact, her quick effect is the more important one, as whenever your opponent activates a normal spell or trap card, you get to attribute one other monster to change that activated effect into flip a face-up monster face down. So in other words, you change an opponent's activated Pot of Prosperity or activated Dark Hole into, let's just set one of the opponent's monsters. This works extremely well with the Prediction Princesses, and it also gives you an extra layer of protection in that you can protect against both spells and traps in one card. It's just all around cool, and if you end up tributing a Bibliomuse for its effect, that Bibliomuse will come right back, so it's as if you didn't even have to tribute anything at all. So, really cool tech card that I like. And the final Floodgate-esque monster we have, at least as a good option from the flip effect pool, is Searchlight Man. You can think of this as Sonic Jammer, but for trap cards, as your opponent cannot set any cards for the rest of the turn. So if you flip that at the beginning of their turn, they're not able to set anything to the back row. They're not able to set any monsters. And that can be really potent at disrupting somebody who isn't ready to expect it. As for the last flip effect monsters you can consider, I really want to highlight the really cool Doomtune GT19. This is another new card from Darkwing Blast, and it's a flip effect tuner that lets you, after it's been flipped face up, synchro summon as a quick effect during the main phase using a monster your opponent controls. Again, really cool. Think of it as like a super poly for synchros in flip effect form. I don't really know if that metaphor seemed to work out well. But the other cool thing about Doomtune is that it can change its level all the way up to level 9, which means that it can serve as Xyz material as well to go into your aggregator, 9-life cats, or generator boss. So it really is flexible going to both synchros or Xyz monsters if you'd like to go that route. The final flip monster is a really good old fun card called Brainjacker. This is the best of the flip monsters that take control of an opponent's monster, as Brainjacker does it in perpetuity, stealing an opponent's monster. Sure, you give them 500 life points during each of their standby phases, but you're not going to keep it around that long. The duel will be over before you let them gain too much life points. So overall, really cool card to include. Moving along from the flip monsters themselves, there's a lot of flip effect support. So let's talk about some of those options. The first is Spirit of the Fall Wind. Whenever this is normal summoned, you get to add a flip monster from a deck to your hand. This is very similar in this build as a normal summon to your Diviner of the Herald. There's just one big difference, and that's that this can only pull your Prediction Princess flips, well, your Prediction Princess Rituals or Bibliomuse, whereas Diviner of the Herald, when sending Herald to Arclight, can only tutor the 2 Prediction Princess Rituals or the Rituals spells. Ultimately, this comes down to a personal choice, as this can be more useful in select circumstances, but I really like the Ritual Sanctuary engine that I used earlier with Cyber Egg Angel, so that's why I ended up going with Diviner of the Herald instead. The other is the final card from Darkwing Blast to be featured here, and that's Calamity upon the Hidden City. While its card art may make it seem like it's supposed to be a Subterra card, this card also works extremely well with the Prediction Princess, since it protects all of your face-down defense position monsters by being targeted by card effects. Plus, any monsters that were flipped face-up gain 1500 attack and defense, which turns them into absolute powerhouses. I mean, just to put in perspective, that gives Tarot Tray over 4000 attack, Bibliomuse 3700 attack. It's less impressive with Tarot Trace, but you get the picture here. Anywho, it also has a last effect, which whenever it's destroyed by an opponent's card effect while in the spell and trap card zone, you get to special summon any monster back from the graveyard in face down defense position, basically reloading one of your flip effects if you absolutely need it. The last option, which I've used for Prediction Princess before, is Junk Sleep. This is just an alternative way to flip all your monsters face down and back face up at slightly different timings than the Prediction Princess rituals offer. So that's why it's worth considering. Will a lot of prediction builds use this? No, but you can consider it. As for the last cards, these are all generic ritual support options. Extra Foolish Burial always works out well with Herald of the Arclight, or you can also technically use it with Elder Entity and Tis, but it comes with a hefty life point cost, but you do get to tutor a ritual monster or a ritual spell, so it can be worth it. Similarly, Geldogra is an insect monster that can pay 3,000 life points to send one monster, so you basically exchange 6,000 of your life points for both a ritual spell and a ritual monster. Ultimately, it's your call if that's worth it. I think that's quite a bit of a hefty price to pay, especially if you don't have a way to have some fun telekinetic charging cell combos and turn Gale Draga into a psychic to let it keep using its effect forever. Lastly, we have Manju of the 10,000 Hands. When normal summoned, he tutors a ritual spell or a ritual monster. It's pretty straightforward, and this is also, I think, the third Let's Build profile to feature him, so definitely excited to show him off again for another ritual build. Alright, all things considered, the Prediction Princess archetype really is ready to shine in its own unique niche. Now that the Darkwing Blast support exists, it is in the game. Offering flip effects, consistent ritual summons, and pseudo floodgates. It offers a playstyle that lets you shout, "I'm unique and special," while preventing your opponent from executing their strategies and just looking back sad at you. At least, that's what the crystal ball told me anyway. Hopefully you walk away from this video seeing the potential of this archetype and the cool new opportunities with the new Darkwing Blast support. And who knows, this might even cause you to try out some Prediction Princesses for yourself. So thanks for listening, catch you next time with a return to Golconda. And now it's time to turn over some replays, so Quincy out.